take it from the top. All right. I always forget the... All right. We are back and live. Good morning, Mick. Welcome to today's Brainstorming Breakfast. Brainstorming Breakfast is a live stream series that I will be doing once a week, where I go live and live work through 3 different design creativity exercises to help get my day going. And the purpose of it is to kind of just dump creativity into the ether, and hopefully people enjoy seeing my brain work live. Hopefully it helps create creativity for others and works through design block that anyone may have. But without further ado, we're just going to get into it. So this live stream will be set up into 3 different exercises. The whole reason that it's Brainstorming Breakfast Blitz, working title, is because we will have 5 minutes on the clock to work through each exercise. So let's just jump into the first one. Alright, so the first exercise is we are going to generate a game from letsmakeagame.net and spend 5 minutes doing a creative brain dump to see where we get, and we will wrap it up by verbally acknowledging what the next steps I would take would be to get this concept tested to see how legitimate there is behind the design we created. So here we go. Top-down shooter, cyberpunk, turn-based, leave something behind, antiquity, rich versus poor. Alright, this seems like a good prompt to get the juices flowing. So we will quickly go over what the 4 different words mean. So the top is the genre. This is what type of game it is. The second would be the rule. So this is the one design rule that we'll have to stay within the fixed guidelines of. The setting, antiquity. For those of you like me that don't know what antiquity exactly means, let's see what Google says for the definition. So it's the ancient past, especially the period before the Middle Ages. Alright, so based in the past. And rich versus poor. Alright, we will start the 5-minute timer and see where this gets us. So we got turn-based, which we have to pretend there are people sitting at the different designated spots on the table. And we'll zoom in because we only care about the game, not where everyone's sitting. And so it's turn-based, leave something behind. So my first thought is that there's some form of drafting going, where you have your different cards that you will be selecting from each round, so nothing very unique there yet. But antiquity, so before the, I believe it said Middle Ages. I'll double check that. Ooh, wasting time. So the purpose of being on the clock is so that you don't overthink things. So antiquity, Middle Ages, old French. So potentially this is a set collection game, rich versus poor. How do we tie in that theme? Rich versus poor. So naturally back in that day, probably want to be the rich. So it's feeling like it's going to be something based off of Sushi Go style set collection. For those that don't know Sushi Go, it is also a drafting game where you're looking to collect different types of sushi to get the most sets and win. So this feels like it is going to be a retheming of Sushi Go. So that probably, we want to come up with an original idea. So we'll keep the same premise, but maybe it will be a tile placement game that, I didn't like that last line. So some form of tile placement. I still think I like the drafting. That you'll pick tiles, fill them in, and leaving something behind. How do we build upon that rule? So maybe after you draft, potentially you will draft rooms and place your player marker in the tile. So if we zoom out a little, so we'll just, I like that idea, but we'll add a new page and focus on what the tile could be. So this could be the room, and potentially you have your player color in here. And you... So I'm thinking it'd be some sort of tile placement, but you pass the whole board to the player to the left or right after you've selected your tiles for the round. And so the player color would stay, and maybe you do like 4 rounds of that, but the tile that you select has certain side criteria that you're building up inside of a house or a museum, or I'd probably have to go get inspired by the genre a little more. I'm not very familiar with the antiquity era, but I'm thinking that it would be a shared location that each board would get passed per round, and you would leave your player color in there. And the next round, people can start building the second floor, and maybe you're building these shared museum centers or things like that, where the rich are continuously trying to use propaganda to show how charitable they are and make their names known in the town that you're building in, or the city. And so there'd be some sort of reward you'd get when somebody places on top of your tile, but at the end of the game there'd be some sort of scoring condition. So it would be some form of multi-layered draft where you're trying to build scoring conditions out on, oops, there's the timer. So where we've gotten to is a recap of what this potential game is that there are 4 districts that you are trying to build up your propaganda as a very influential person of the antiquity era, where you are placing these tiles to try to get scoring benefits to be the most notable in the 4 districts. Maybe it's some form of election style game back then, to be in control of the populace's decision. But we're supposed to stop the brainstorming there because the timer went off. So the next steps that I would take to continue on this design would be to try to quickly create probably just paper tiles, and I could laminate them if I needed to use for coloring for your to denote your player color. But the next steps for this process would be to create the tiles and just see if that reward system for stacking and the double passing would work. My play setup would be I'd probably rope my fiance Michaela in to test the validity of it, but I would spend an hour trying to create maybe 24 tiles that I could then print 3 copies of, and I would format it to be on 8.5 by 11 standard printer paper, and I would go from there. I wouldn't bring it right into Tabletop Simulator because the passing of the board and tiles at this stage would feel a little wonky, but those would be my next steps to see if this concept even has legs. So that is the game generator exercise. Next, we'll move into the spin the wheel exercise, which is a similar process. There's going to be a 5-minute timer on this one as well. And so I will pick a game off the shelf behind me that is a game that I like, and we will replace its main mechanic with one that the wheel tells us to. So let me quickly erase all of this, and we will pick Wingspan because that's within reach. And so Wingspan, for those of you who have never played, it is a tableau building game where you are building up 3 different regions of your habitat to hold up different birds, and so it's not going to be the easiest to show, but maybe I can pull out a couple cards quick. So you'll be collecting these different bird cards, still getting used to the mirror, that have a habitat in the top that they want to live in, along with the cost of food that they need to be able to be placed in your tableau. And so you're working to, with turn selection, you will pick one of the actions associated with the 3 different habitats of your player board, or the 4th action being placing a bird, and you will take the associated action with it. So a quick sentence of what this game is would be probably action selection with a little tableau building. And so if we jump back into spin the wheel, let's see, we'll say tableau building is the main mechanic we are replacing. And that is very loud. Alright, what did we get? Oh, that feels like I was given a little blessing right there. So we are doing pattern. Pattern building, because it's cut off screen. So again, we will set the 5-minute timer and see where this takes us. Where'd my timer go? Bam. Timer. Alright, 5 minutes on the clock. So the tableau building is now, this feels like a easy layup, for my brain at least. So in the standard game of Wingspan, you are slowly paying for the cost to get these birds out. And it feels like the natural way to do pattern building is that at the start of the game, everyone's given these objective cards, which I'll make a note to myself that every game we're redesigning will have them out for reference. So I'll go back to full camera. So you have these reference cards. So the natural way I would go about redesigning that is I would take these that you originally get and you change them out to have your habitat grid that would give a scoring condition for, you know, paired, maybe like pattern building based on the resource cost of the birds seems like the first place I would start. So maybe you want to get, you know, a berry here, so you'd be berry focused for this, and say this is your first objective. That's a little small for the camera, so we'll zoom that in. So you have your 3 berry goal card, and so if you match berries, you'd get this amount of points. But then you could have potentially worms in those two spots, and if you get worms, not in the game, not in real life. That was a dumb joke. Sorry. Worms, you would get this point. So that would probably be the easiest way I would test, or I guess that felt like a layup, but we're going to go with it. And so that would be my quick design reformatting based on spin the wheel. That took way less than 5 minutes, but that feels like a solid satisfaction of the game criteria. And so that was the second brainstorm exercise. And the third one, we'll use Wingspan as the game of choice for this brainstorm as well. Oh, we're no longer sharing screens. It's okay, we'll go to full camera. So the third exercise is to talk about a game that has been stuck in my head, or when we have guests on, allow them to talk about a game that is stuck in their head and explain the mechanic that is causing that. And so I will have, we'll figure out how to set that up. I'm just going to have it off to my side. And so Wingspan, without giving it much like premeditated thought, the action selection system of the player boards is probably my favorite mechanic in Wingspan. So if we distract and ramble for a couple seconds for me to get out a player board, I'll be able to use that as reference. So we have the Wingspan player board, and as you can see off to this side, you have these three actions that you can take on your turn, along with this fourth action up here, which allows you to play birds out to your tableau. And I think the engine building of playing the birds out there as you play birds and cover the space, making the action stronger, is such a well flushed out, streamlined mechanic in the game that makes it very accessible to a lot of gamers of all variety. As somebody that would say is probably more of a not as much a beginner gamer anymore, I still find it very interesting to see the cards that I'm dealt at the beginning of the round or beginning of the game, and seeing how I can set an engine up to take advantage of one of those spots. So the rewarding replays of it, I find, oh crap, I think we went offline. Well, I hope this is recording, so we'll just record offline. Live and learn. So the sort of the progressive bonuses that you gain as you play more birds is a really rewarding system to keep coming back to as somebody that likes to replayability in games. And so that, I would say, is my favorite mechanic in Wingspan that always has me fascinated with it. So with that, I believe our Wi-Fi went out, so I'm going to call the stream there. Hopefully the local recording was captured, so this can go up as a YouTube video. But I appreciate those that were here at the beginning. I guess the quick Q&A was now not possible, so we will try again next week. But thank you so much for listening if you're watching on the YouTube, and I look forward to having you join again in the future.